Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Tease Time. I'm TJ. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have more issues. It seems to be a little bit of a domino effect of just like things are breaking, things are arising that need to be fixed and taken care of. So today I have an issue motor-wise. I have looks like oil might be accumulating in the intercooler. I checked the oil. The oil seemed to be low. The oil has to be going somewhere. Usually it doesn't go through oil. It's at about like less than 1,500 miles since I did the oil change. Usually it doesn't burn through. So we need to check to investigate to make sure the turbo is okay. I do need to do maintenance. I have an air filter coming and I'm going to clean out the Mishimoto, the oil catch can that I have. I'm going to take that and clean that because that could be also affecting pressures and crankcase vent and all that stuff, making oil go into the intercooler. A little bit of oil could be okay, but like if you start is dumping like a might be a lot of oil, and I'll show you why I think it might be a lot. If oil fills your intercooler and then your motor ends up eating oil and running off of the oil, that could be a runaway engine, that could be a catastrophe, that could be a blown motor. So to prevent that, we're going to check this out, see what's going on. I haven't been driving it like since, like I've been just kind of keeping an eye on it and the oil level. The first time like I noticed like the oil was when I went through like the car wash, and I think it was probably sprayed water, so that could have like clogged the filter. The filters are supposed to be replaced at least like every couple years. It's been about like 3 years since I replaced it. Yeah, we're gonna go through and check. I just want to make sure there's not any like free play on the turbo turbine, and if we can actually get a boot off, and I'm gonna stick like a hose in to see if I could drain or suck any oil that's in the intercooler just so we can kind of see, and I'm gonna check the oil again. But yeah, today we're gonna try to investigate, see what's going on, and hopefully we could come up with some answers, and hopefully it's not a blown turbo, and hopefully this is just a maintenance thing where it's just the air filter may be clogged and just need a new one. And the same thing with the crankcase vent. So like we're gonna start with maintenance stuff and just to see how much oil is actually in the intercooler, and then we're gonna go from there. And we're also gonna check to see if there's any free play on the turbine wheel. Take off like the whole intake boot that goes to the turbo. We'll take that all off and just to see if there's any free play, and that's where we're gonna go today. So this is the reason why. This is the intercooler boot. This is the cold side or hot side going into the intercooler, and then going into the intake over here. And then also down here you can see like there's a little residue oil coming out from there also, which makes me think that there's oil in the intercooler. So let's check the oil. It's actually only down like a little bit, but still it's enough. We need to just inspect to just see how bad the oil is in the intercooler. So all of this is coming off. I need to gain access to the inlet of the turbo back there. So all of this is getting removed. This is the air filter right here. That's coming off. The boot going to the filter. The mass sensor, that's all coming off. Just so I could get my hands on the turbine to see if it has any free play. And then also in there, that's our oil catch can that needs to come off. I need to clean that. And for a better view, this is the turbo right here. Need to gain access just to see if there's oil inside of the boot also, and for free play. So that was a quart load of oil. So now let's get into disassembly. So we have oil on this side, and I just took that off just so I could get my hand in there to see if I could touch that turbine, because the other end was coming off a little difficult. Yeah. It actually feels pretty good. If anything, it's probably a maintenance thing, because you can see, like in there, that goes to the oil catch can. So there's like a little foam element in there that might be like dirty and clogged, which is making oil pretty much come in. Because as you can see, this is like the top side. It sits in there like so. So oil normally goes from high from low. And as you can see, it's coming right in through there. So I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna clean that, get that situated. We're gonna reassemble, and I got the oil on the intercooler, get that out. But the turbine felt nice. It felt like it spun freely. It didn't have like a lot of side to side play. So like, I don't think the turbo is shot. I think it's just, it's a maintenance issue. And even like the air filter, it feels a little hefty. So it could just be a bunch of just, that's what it looks like new. And that's what it looks like now. But it has some weight to it, like it has absorbed a lot of moisture. So that's gonna get changed. We're gonna clean out the intercooler. I probably need new intercooler boots because it's letting the oil out, which is a good thing, but that's a boost leak. Clean, maintenance, get all that stuff situated, and we're gonna get stuff going. All right, so this is the in and this is the out. In, all that oil out just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to pour as much out. If there is anything in there, we're gonna pour it out to see what's in there. Then I'm gonna put denatured alcohol in it and just let that sit after I swish it, and then just pour that out, and that will take care of that. But then also for the intercooler boots, they also have oil residue. All of that in there. Not so much in this side, still like a little bit. I'm gonna try to take that off, get as much oil out as possible, just so like when we're trying to see like if everything is fixed, we don't see like the old residue, old oil coming out, which we think will still be a problem. And then also have to drop the oil catch can to a lower point, so I think gravity will help keep oil from going, get sucked into the intake. So that's coming also, but yeah. So doesn't seem to be like a lot of like liquid residue in there. It's probably just all coated. It's got sucked in, so everything is probably just coated, just not enough for it to drip all the way out, which is probably a good thing. But we're gonna get that cleaned up, all of this cleaned up, all of that, and then just pour the denatured alcohol in there, swish it and let it sit, and then just drain into a catch pan, and make sure you dispose of correctly if you're doing the same thing. All right, so intercooling piping is cleaned out. I got that stuff. It's easier to grab from this access under the dash right here. This right here is the oil catch can. This is the in and this is the out, and you know that by in and out on the casting right there. So on the outside there's not supposed to be oil, and I already had pulled it off while I was taking it off. I'll show you. So take it off. This is going out. This goes to the turbo. You stick your pinky in there and let that drop down. Oil is not supposed to be on that side. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna mount it at a lower position so that way gravity is working against the oil going into the intake. And I had read on Mishimoto's site when they were doing the research and development for it, when they were making a kit, they had it higher and it didn't accumulate so much oil, but then it was letting some bypass. But they did it lower and accumulated more, and the gravity will help keep that oil from making its way into the intake. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna reroute that. I'm gonna drop it to a lower point on the truck, and that way the hose, even if oil gets into it, it has to fight gravity to make it in there. But it's kind of like a straw when it's sucking, especially when the turbo's boosting, it's sucking that air to go through the intake. So yeah, so I'm gonna take that off. I'm gonna clean it. I'm gonna replace those hoses just because I'm gonna need longer hose anyway. I have it right up there. I just gotta find another mounting location. I'm gonna take this off, and then you can actually see how much oil we have inside of it. So this is the oil that is in it. As you can see, that shiny oil, and then you can see right here. So yeah, so this is the in. This comes down and there's a filter right here. The filter seems like it's saturated with oil because the oil is probably coming down and then it's actually like floating, staying on the surface, getting absorbed into the sponge, and then it's sucking the oil in. So I'm gonna take that apart. I'm gonna clean that with some dish soap and water, get that cleaned, and we're gonna drop it to a lower spot also. And I haven't cleaned that filter since I installed it, and that's been over like a couple years ago, like an oil change and a half. So probably need to do more frequent cleaning on that foam filter also, just to prevent like the oil getting caked up in there and just getting sucked in. So if anything, that clogged and it just being at a higher point on the engine caused that oil to go in there. So we're gonna clean and we're gonna put it at a lower spot. So yeah. So that's all clean. Like changing the location doesn't fix this. I might end up putting back in like the factory crankcase vent filter, just because like I don't want oil in my intercooler. I'm gonna try putting this lower. Like if this happens again, this is probably gonna go bye-bye. We'll go back to the factory. Like the point of getting this was just maintenance wise. This should have paid for itself, but like if it's gonna get oil in the intercooler, which is supposed to prevent, we're gonna remove it. But we're gonna try to lower position, let gravity do its thing, a longer hose run, so that way hopefully that should help. So it has to fight gravity to go up, then down, and then up again to the intake. So hopefully that works. But right now we're about to pour out this, and I got these O-rings. I just have extras. I want to see if there was one that could fit a little tighter, snugger on this, but I don't. But right now we're just about to pour out the intercooler, and then we'll be done with that, and I'm just gonna let that air dry overnight, and then we'll get back to assembling. But let me show you me draining it so you can see the stuff that comes out of it. All right, I'm pleased with that. Like when you stick your hand down in there, like where I had it submerged, it doesn't really come up with residue. There's like still residue, like a little bit up top. But I'm pleased with that. I'm gonna let that air dry. I'll show you the oil catch can where I have it mounted now. So that's where that's gonna live. So gravity should definitely be on the side with that. And then I have the lines routed going up, and then so it has to go up, beat gravity there, and then it goes all the way down, and it has beat gravity coming back up to go into the intake right there. So in theory, we shouldn't get oil on the intake, and that's the purpose of this. And we want to check to make sure the turbo is good. So the turbo seems or appears to be good. There wasn't any like play on the little turbine, so that's good. It spun freely. You can see where the oil was coming in originally through that little intake hole. So we have that. That's cleaned out also. That's ready to go back in. And then I have another air filter coming, so we're gonna change the air filter also. That's getting replaced. Just doing general maintenance since like I took it apart, and it's just like one of those things that needed to be done anyway because I was a little bit behind. It's like a yearly thing, even though it's yearly or every 2 years for the air filter. I don't know, it's like mileage or time, and it's been sitting, so it was about due for that to be changed anyway. So that is done and changed, and well, will be changed. But yeah, right now just doing air dry. I'm gonna let that sit for a while overnight, and then I'll reassemble. I'm gonna set it, make sure it's upside down, so that way if there's anything, it's kind of just draining out. But the alcohol should evaporate if there is any like residue in there, so we should be good. But I think, yeah, assembly time. And bada boom, bada bing, everything is installed, it's mounted, well remounted. Only thing is just the air filter needs to go back in. I left this off just so you can be able to see in the back a little easier. So what I decided to do with the oil catch can, instead of rerouting it back to the intake so it doesn't act like a straw and maybe it's just sucking too much, especially like it gets around like 30 psi, I capped that off, and then I'll show you. Well, of course we have our intercooler, that's back on, mounted, everything's secure. It's back on there. It's back on there, tight, 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 tight. And our oil catch can down in there, that's all secure. But then for the vent, so of course you have your crankcase pressure. The old factory crankcase vent was in here, that's gutted out now. So if anything, like it builds pressure inside, if the gases need to escape, they still will be vented. I'm gonna vent to the atmosphere, so we'll get caught down there in the catch can, and then this air part right here will be like the fresh air for like the gases to like escape. If anything, I could probably route this, try to get it like lower down on the truck, so like if the oil catch can ever does actually like fill up with oil, the oil won't go into the intake, it'll just kind of like leak out. So if just keep up on maintenance and keep checking the oil catch can, we shouldn't have any issue with that. So this way it just eliminates that whole problem out of the equation of like the oil being sucked in through the intake right there. Just because like the filter and everything like that, like I don't know, like when I'm under boost, and usually I'm under boost like majority of the time, if it's just acting like a straw and just sucking oil vapor and not even allowing it enough time to fall to the bottom of the catch can. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to try that out. I'm going to see how that goes. But that was just kind of like part of this process of building. Like problems do arise, and it's better to check stuff out instead of waiting for it to fail, because even just like maintenance, like that air filter being blocked up could cause like the turbo pressures to be different and make it oil leak from that, like the seals also. Cheap maintenance can be detrimental. It causes big problems, so like I'd rather check stuff out before it gets to a problem state. So yeah, so I thank you for tuning in. So in this video you saw how to actually like clean the Mishimoto, the oil catch can, cleaning out the intercooler, checking the turbine for free play. Everything seems good, so we're gonna do like one problem at a time, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna run it to see if that solves the issue. If that doesn't solve the issue, we have to keep digging deeper, 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 deeper. But always start with just like your maintenance. If you're lacking maintenance on anything, make sure you're caught up on all that before you start digging into assuming like blown turbos and stuff like that. Start with the things that need to be replaced already and need to be like kept up to par. But until next Wednesday, keep pushing, don't slack, don't ignore your problems. Try to face them, try to solve them. So I'll see you next Wednesday. Peace, TJ.